Hello, welcome to my market commentary. The fact that the indexes have reached new highs, and that despite President Trump's statements about increasing tariffs there hasn't been much selling in the market, and the market remains strong, all these are signs that, from now on, as uncertainties disappear, this upward trend in the market will continue. Of course, President Trump's increase in tariffs does create some uncertainty here. There may also be a negative impact on corporate profitability in the market, but the market is not reacting very strongly to these developments. So right now, the prevailing sentiment in the market is positive, the mood is upbeat, and some positive surprises are also expected here. So what does this mean? Maybe, for example, trade agreements could be made during this period. These could be positive for the market. President Trump might back down or extend the deadline. These could be quite positive for the market. So, when we put all of this together, I think it's still a good time to buy. When we look at the Dow Jones, it's close to its previous highs, but not quite there yet. The Dow Jones looks good. We expect the upward trend to continue. The S&P 500, although it started the day with a bit of a decline, is currently in a more or less flat position. So, I also recommend buying in the S&P 500. NASDAQ. Well, NASDAQ is already our favorite. After pulling back a bit, the NASDAQ started to rise again from the 22,633 level. In other words, the market isn't really falling much. But I'm expecting something to happen for it to move forward. Tomorrow, the inflation data will be announced in the US. If the inflation data comes in a bit lower than expected, that could be positive for the market. For 5 times in a row, the inflation data has come in lower than the market's expectations. This has happened 5 times in a row. It didn't have much of an effect, because people thought that if inflation dropped, maybe the Fed could cut interest rates. But it's become clear that the Fed won't cut rates before September. They're not expecting that anyway. So, as a result, the buying opportunity in the American stock market is still ongoing. It's still not too late. You can buy. Here, let's say, the opportunity isn't over yet. The window of opportunity hasn't closed. We can't say the same for some other places. Now, from here, let's move directly to crypto. This week, Congress in the US is expected to work on laws related to cryptocurrencies. This has also brought some activity to the crypto markets. When we look at Bitcoin, on the 12-hour chart, it has surpassed 110,000. We still see that the upward trend continues. 134,450 is our previous target. Even though that's a longer-term target, I'm reminding you of it here as well. And here as well, in crypto, in Bitcoin, I think this upward movement could continue for another day or two. But it's wise to be cautious. Don't go trying to buy Bitcoin with all your money. Because if we reach that 134,000 target quickly, there could be a pullback from there. So, I think it's a bit late to buy Bitcoin right now. But there is still upward potential. We continue to like Ethereum. Since 2,873 has been surpassed, Ethereum can be bought. 3,344 is the next resistance level. Overall, we're in a positive environment for cryptocurrencies. Ethereum still has a bit more potential here, because Ethereum has dropped a lot. It fell all the way down to around $1,500 and came up from there to here. So while Bitcoin is heading towards new highs, Ethereum is still far from its previous peak right now. Therefore, Ethereum still has some room to go up. And technically, Ethereum has also become much stronger. Back in the day, I also said I didn't like Ethereum, but I told you there would definitely come a time when we'd appreciate it. Now, if you look at Ethereum like this, you can see that it's come back and, has also crossed above the Ishimo on the 12-hour chart. You can see here that it has moved above the Ishimo on the daily chart as well. And after breaking out, it stayed there for about a week or so. So, Ethereum is doing well. We like it. As for Ripple, right now we've reached the 2.95 resistance level. That's a resistance we drew a while back, and, it's also moved above the Ishimo and everything. It's been performing really well. I'm going to try to simplify my chart a bit more. Yes, I've simplified it a bit more and, as you can see here, Ripple has moved up really nicely. We were saying that maybe the story with Ripple was over. because Ripple had gone up to 3.33, and after that, it dropped and stayed sideways for quite a while. Indeed, after that rise in January, look, this point here is 3.28. Down here, it even dropped below 2. There were huge losses, but now it's on the rise again. I had already told you before that it could be bought at this point. I had you buy it, but since it hasn't surpassed 2.95 yet, I'm not recommending a new purchase. I'm saying hold. The next target will again be that previous 3.24, 3.30 region it had reached. But we're not recommending a new purchase, because you're quite late and unfortunately, you've missed this opportunity for now. So hold on to what you have, but this isn't a good place to sell either. Right now, generally speaking, there's a positive atmosphere in the crypto market, and as long as the work continues in the US House of Representatives, this positive mood could persist. Let me just say that. I won't have any comments on US 10-year bonds today. I want to start with silver now. In silver, we've reached our target, and after surpassing that target, meaning after passing our 38.74 target, we have one more target. That is our 43 target. Right now, we've reached that target. If you want to buy silver from this point on, do it in portions, buy gradually. I'm saying this so you don't regret it, because you've already missed that big rally in silver. Especially those who bought silver when I said you could sell gold and buy silver made a very good profit on gold, because we had people buy gold from better levels, and they also caught a very good rise in silver. Now, if you didn't sell your gold back then, or if you could have sold something else instead of gold to buy silver, if you didn't buy, this is now a risky spot. We're not saying sell your silver, keep holding it, but if you're going to buy, do it in small portions. For example, buy a portion today, and if you see the rise continuing a bit more, buy another portion tomorrow, because we might have reached a point where this rally could really speed up and it's impossible to predict where it might go. I say might because we've reached our target of 38.74, but we haven't seen a close above that target yet. When you look at it this way, see, we couldn't surpass this target. You can see it on the daily chart as well. Looking at the 4-hour chart, we also couldn't surpass our target, but there's a chance it could use this area as support and move up from here. That's why I say to buy gradually. And as you can clearly see here, this 37.2, 37.22 region is also acting as support right now. So silver might pull back as far as that level. Therefore, there's still a bit of potential left in silver. Maybe there's actually a lot of potential, but the window of opportunity has mostly closed. Now that I've mentioned this, let's move on to gold. We also said to buy gold on April 24th. We said you could exit gold and switch to silver. We also said that if you don't do any of these, you could sell your gold and move into a money market fund, for example. You could have earned some interest from there as well. If you haven't done any of these by now, all those opportunities are gone. In other words, that window of opportunity has closed. Because at this point, selling gold and moving into a money market fund to make some gains probably doesn't make much sense. Because we're still positive on gold in the long run. I mean, we're optimistic about gold over the next 1 or 2 years. But there was a good opportunity, and now that's in the past. I'm emphasizing this especially because I get a lot of questions about it. Now people are asking if they should sell their gold and switch to silver, and so on. But that opportunity has already passed. And here, you can clearly see, for example, there's 3,365 right there. Of course, it can go a bit higher than that from time to time. Let me mention that as well. It can go up to around 3,380 or even 3,400, for example. But usually, it comes back down from here as well. For example, it pulled back from here on July 3rd. And, for instance, it also pulled back from here on June 24th. Similarly, it came back down on June 6th as well. It also pulled back from here on May 23rd. So when you look at it, it's the same. Of course, it went up even more here on May 6th, but still, it came back down. So we see that it pulled back from here again. But silver looks better compared to this. Therefore, we are not recommending new purchases in gold. I also think it's now too late to close your position and sell. Technically, the situation in gold hasn't turned into a sell signal yet. If it technically turns into a sell signal, then we can recommend selling. How could that happen? For example, here it could first fall below the moving average, and then there's a support level at 3,270. Look, right here, there's a support at 3,263. If this support is broken, the downward movement could gain strength. In that case, we would recommend selling. But if it keeps moving back and forth within this range, then we don't recommend selling. We're not recommending buying either. So, what should you do? If you've come into some money, you should consider investing it somewhere other than gold. For example, right now it could be NASDAQ, or maybe silver in parts. If you haven't sold your gold after all this time, why would you sell it now? Because gold still has a bit of potential left. So, you should hold on to your gold then. There's nothing more I can say, and that's all for today.